I'm here with John Richardson, speaking to him about his LSAT course. In your opinion, what does the LSAT actually test?
The LSAT is actually a test of both reading and reasoning with that information in the context of different scenarios. Loosely speaking, those scenarios would be the three basic LSAT question types: logic games, logical reasoning, and reading comprehension. But it's reading and reasoning in context.
Why do you think people underperform on the LSAT?
Well, there are a number of reasons, but I think the two main ones, the first one would be simply emotional fallout, anxiety. It's reasonable to feel anxious about the LSAT. Although it's not the most important part of the application file, it's probably the most important 4 or 5 hours that you're going to spend towards getting into law school. At the end of the day, it's extremely important that not only are you actually prepared for the LSAT, but B, you must feel that you are prepared. The second reason that people underperform is perhaps a misunderstanding of the test, or perhaps a lack of emphasis. But if the LSAT is testing reading, you must understand what you read. And I find that people don't spend enough time on that, likely because it's very, very difficult, and start actually trying to answer the questions before they've understood what they've been told. That leads to disaster. It's sort of like computer programming. If you don't understand what you have to work with, it's garbage in and garbage out.
When are your courses offered, and how flexible are they?
We have very flexible start dates. In fact, we're having this discussion in February, with June being, I think, the recommended time to do the test, with October being a close second. But you could actually start an LSAT course with us every 2 weeks. Up until April, and then in May we have them starting every weekend. So in terms of dates, tremendously flexible. Now, in terms of format, again, very flexible. I'm very excited about our Mastering the LSAT Prep Unlimited, which essentially would allow people to pay once and have unlimited access to all our classes, LSAT practice tests, and law school admission seminars right through to the December test. And then we have additional start dates in obviously May, June, July, August, September, October. I don't believe that we have any starting in December for the December test.
What is your approach or technique when teaching students about the LSAT?
There is no one approach to the test. I think, in fact, that any time you hear a course or a book say this is the way to do a question, that just means that that's how that teacher did it, and it may or may not apply to somebody else. People have very different reading styles, very different thinking styles, and given that there's no one way to do the test, there's no one way to teach the test either. And the important thing is to match the individual's reading style and comprehension style with some mechanism to help them identify the answer in the context of multiple choice. So there is no one approach. I would teach and sort of preach the gospel of flexibility. I've taught LSAT for many, many years, and there is never a course that I do where I don't learn something about a question from some perspective I never thought of.
Can you tell us more about the specific workshops you offer?
I've always seen our job here is to help people actually get into law school. One of the most basic things is obviously a personal statement workshop. In our most extensive course, I do short individual counseling sessions on request with different students. We run a course called Getting into Law School, and one of the things that I've always been most excited about is the pre-law forum that we organize, which actually brings the law school admissions officers right to the students, so they no longer have to rely on second-hand, third-hand information, or to use a word that you'll hear about a lot in law school, hearsay. They can hear directly from the law school admissions officers. And this is why I always want our students to do well on the LSAT, but the thing that pleases me most is when I get that phone call that, yeah, they've gotten in somewhere.
How would you advise someone to start preparing for the LSAT today?
Well, the important thing is to begin with and understand what LSAT says about their own test. Some free information, vitally important, is the LSAT information book, which now is available only online, but it includes an actual full-length exam plus very important commentary. Read it once, twice, 3 times until you understand it. Following that, I absolutely recommend that you get and use this book called The Official LSAT Super Prep. I actually call it LSAT on the LSAT. It's the one book that's absolutely essential for your LSAT preparation. Not only does it include 3 real LSAT tests, but commentary, how LSAT justifies their answers. Following that, it is important that you do as many real LSATs as you can. Most of them are available for purchase. The easiest way is to buy them in books of 10, of which this is just one example. Again, the important thing is, what does LSAT say about their own test? And only after that has been understood should you go into third-party books and LSAT preparation courses.
What other advice would you give to students applying to law school?
Get started now. Understand the process. Actually have a good hard look at the application form for wherever you're applying to law school. Now, the application consists of various components. You've got to understand what's required on the application form, the kind of question they ask you in a personal statement, who would be the most valuable people to get references from, how to get those references, what grades are important, all grades, some years, how would an upward or downward trend affect your chances. Applying to law school is a tremendous amount of work. You've got to get started early, work at it diligently. It's interesting that I think that there are a lot of people who don't get into law school because they simply start the application process too late and don't leave themselves enough time to put their best foot forward. In addition, I would begin thinking about the schools that would be best suited for you. It's interesting that today there's really no reason to get just a law degree when you go to law school. There's so many joint programs that, although I wouldn't go so far as to say that everybody should do one, I think it would be very unwise to consider applying to law school without considering the availability of, say, joint law degrees or the JD MBA, these types of things. Thirdly, very, very important to have what I actually do call an application buddy, somebody who will work through the process with you, share your successes, commiserate with you on your failures, but above all else, make it clear how you're projecting when you answer questions and the kind of person that you appear to be. Many of these ideas I've summarized. Really, they just come from 30 years of working with pre-law students in this book, Law School Bound. It's a very comprehensive, complete, not only law admissions process, but how to actually then go further and become a lawyer in Canada or the United States.